The ship was quiet. Captain Do-hyun Park stood near the large window of the research vessel Horizon's Edge and looked out at the endless black space. Stars burned in the distance like small fires that would never go out. He had been in space for 15 years, but he never got tired of this view. It was the year 2247. Humanity had spread far from Earth. They had built colonies on distant planets in 3 different star systems. They had met 7 alien races and made peace with all of them through something called the Galactic Accord. Life was good. Life was safe. Or so everyone believed. Do-hyun turned away from the window and walked through the metal hallways of his ship. The Horizon's Edge was not a warship. It was a research vessel, meant for exploring the unknown parts of space. His crew of 42 people were scientists, engineers, and explorers. They were not soldiers. He entered the communications room and found Lieutenant Yuna Kim sitting at her station. She was young, only 28 years old, but she was the best communications officer he had ever worked with. Her fingers moved quickly over the controls as she listened to the sounds of space through her headphones. "Anything interesting tonight?" Do-hyun asked. Yuna did not answer. Her face had become pale. Her eyes were wide with something Do-hyun had never seen in her before. Fear. "Captain," she said slowly, "I am receiving a signal. It is not like anything in our database. It is not human. It is not from any alien race we know." Do-hyun felt a cold feeling in his stomach. "Where is it coming from?" "Uncharted space. Beyond the edge of everything we have explored." Yuna pressed more buttons. "The signal is very strong. Very old. And it is. It is taking over our systems." Before Do-hyun could respond, every screen on the ship turned red. Every speaker began to play the same message. The words came in every human language, one after another. Then, in every alien language, the voice was cold, mechanical, without any emotion. "Species 7492. You have been catalogued. Prepare for harvest." The message repeated 3 times. Then the screens returned to normal. The ship was silent again. But it was a different kind of silence now. A terrible silence. Do-hyun grabbed the communication device on his belt. "All senior officers to the bridge. Now." Within minutes, his key people had gathered. Chief Engineer Tae-ho Shin was a big man with rough hands and a calm face. But even he looked worried. The science officers whispered to each other with shaking voices. "What does it mean?" Tae-ho asked. "Harvest? Are they talking about us like we are? Like we are food?" "We need to contact Earth," Do-hyun said. "We need to warn everyone." But before they could send their message, Yuna received another transmission. This one came from Earth. Her face became even more pale as she listened. "Captain," she said, her voice breaking, 17 human colonies have gone dark. No communication, no distress signals, nothing. They are just gone." The room fell silent. 17 colonies. Millions of people. Gone in a single night. Do-hyun forced himself to stay calm. He had to be strong for his crew. "Contact the Galactic Accord. Our alien allies must help us. This is what the Alliance is for." They sent the message. They waited. Minutes felt like hours. Finally, a response came. It was from the Council of 7 alien races, the beings humanity had trusted as friends and partners. The message was short. "We cannot help you. The collectors have claimed your kind. We are sorry. Do not contact us again." Yuna played the message twice to make sure she had heard correctly. The aliens, the 7 races that had shared technology and traded goods with humanity for decades, had abandoned them. Just like that. With 3 sentences, Tae-ho slammed his fist against the wall. "Cowards! They are leaving us to die." Do-hyun stared at the screen. His mind was racing. The Collectors. He had never heard that name before, but he understood what it meant. Some ancient force in the galaxy collected species. harvested them. And now it was humanity's turn. Send everything to Earth, he ordered. Every piece of data we have about that signal. Every frequency. Every pattern. Everything. If we cannot stop this, at least we can help those who come after us. As his crew worked frantically, Do-hyun walked back to the window. The stars looked the same as before, but now they seemed different. Hostile. Full of hidden dangers. He thought about his daughter on Earth. She was only 12 years old. He thought about his wife, his parents, his friends. He thought about the billions of people who had no idea what was coming for them. Then he thought about something else. Humans were not like other species. History had proven this many times. When humans were pushed into a corner, when they faced extinction, they did not simply accept death. They fought. They raged. They found ways to survive that no one could predict. The aliens had called them Species 7492. A number. Nothing more than cattle waiting to be collected. They had made a terrible mistake. Do-hyun did not know how humanity would fight back. He did not know if they could win. But he knew one thing, with absolute certainty. Whoever these collectors were, they had never faced anything like the human race. And they were about to learn why the universe should fear the people of Earth. He watched the stars burn in the darkness and made a silent promise to his family, to his species, to every human who had ever lived and died. We will not go quietly. We will not be harvested. We will make them regret the day they sent that signal. The horizon's edge turned toward home. The message had been sent. The war for survival had begun. The news spread across Earth like fire through dry grass. Every screen, every device, every public display showed the same footage. The colony of New Busan had managed to send one final transmission before going silent. It was only 10 seconds long. But those 10 seconds changed humanity forever. The video showed ordinary people standing in a city square. They were looking up at the sky. Some were holding children. Some were holding hands with loved ones. Their faces showed confusion. Then fear. Then something worse. Shadows fell over them. Vast and dark, blocking out the sun. Then the video ended. 8 billion people watched those 10 seconds. 8 billion people saw their brothers and sisters, their fellow humans, in their final moments. And something broke inside them. Something old and primal woke up. Admiral Soo-jin Baek was 41 years old. She had short black hair, sharp eyes, and a reputation for being the most brilliant military mind of her generation. She was also the youngest fleet commander in Earth's history. When she received the emergency summons to the United Earth Defense Council, she already knew what had happened. She had watched the footage 17 times. The council chamber was full of the most powerful people on Earth. Presidents, prime ministers, generals, and corporate leaders sat around a massive circular table. But despite their power, they looked small, afraid, lost. For 2 hours, they argued. Some wanted to surrender and beg for mercy. Some wanted to hide and hope the collectors would pass them by. Some blamed each other for not preparing better defenses. Nobody had a real plan. Soo-jin listened in silence. Her jaw was tight. Her hands were clenched into fists under the table. Finally, she could not take it anymore. She stood up and slammed her palm on the table. The sound echoed through the chamber like a gunshot. Everyone stopped talking and turned to look at her. They called us a number, Soo-jin said. Her voice was quiet but filled with cold fire. Species 7492. Not humans. Not people. A number. They think we are animals waiting to be collected. They think we will cry and beg and die like all the others before us. She looked around the room, meeting every pair of eyes. They do not know us. They do not know what we are. They do not know what happens when you take our children, when you burn our homes, when you give us nothing left to lose. She walked to the center of the room where a holographic display showed Earth and its colonies. I have studied every war in human history. We are a species that fights. It is in our blood, in our bones, in our souls. We have killed each other for thousands of years, over land, over ideas, over pride. Imagine what we will do to aliens who want to harvest us like wheat. The room was completely silent. Today, we stop being nations. We stop being corporations. We stop being enemies. Today, we become one species with one purpose: survival and revenge. Within 72 hours, the world transformed. Old borders disappeared. Countries that had been enemies for centuries shared their military secrets. Corporations that had competed for decades handed over their most advanced technology. Every factory on Earth began producing weapons, ships, and ammunition. In a small laboratory in Seoul, Dr. Hana Lim worked without sleep. She was a quantum physicist, one of the smartest people on the planet. She was also a mother who had lost everything. Her husband, her 2 children, and her parents had all lived on New Busan. Now they were gone. Hana did not cry. She did not scream. She simply worked. Her colleagues watched her with worried eyes, but they did not try to stop her. They understood. Her grief had become something else, something useful, something dangerous. The alien ships are organic, she explained to the military officials who visited her lab. They are grown, not built. This means they have weaknesses that machines do not have. I am developing a weapon that will attack those weaknesses. I call it Project Prometheus. How long do you need? They asked. Give me 3 months, Hana said. And give me everything I ask for. No questions. No delays. They gave her everything. Across the planet, similar scenes played out. Engineers designed new warships. Scientists created new weapons. Soldiers trained day and night. Volunteers lined up at recruitment centers, more than the military could handle. Something strange and beautiful was happening. For the first time in history, all of humanity was working together. Not because of hope, not because of ideals, but because of rage. Pure, burning, unstoppable rage. The alien races of the Galactic Accord watched from a distance. They had expected humans to panic, to fall apart, to destroy themselves in fear. Instead, they saw something that made them uncomfortable. They saw a species that should have been broken, but was instead becoming stronger. They are insane, one alien ambassador reported to his government. They are preparing to fight the collectors. No species has ever done this. They will be destroyed. But deep down, the aliens felt something they had not felt in a long time. A small, uncomfortable feeling that maybe, just maybe, they had made a mistake. Maybe they should not have abandoned the humans so quickly. On Earth, Admiral Sujin stood on the bridge of her new flagship, the carrier Indomitable. It was the largest warship ever built by human hands. Through the window, she could see hundreds of other ships being constructed in orbit. The largest fleet in human history was being born. She thought about the collectors, somewhere out there in the darkness, coming to harvest her people. She thought about the aliens who had abandoned them. She thought about the dead on 17 colonies, and she smiled. It was not a happy smile. It was the smile of a predator that had finally found worthy prey. Come and take us, she thought. We are ready. 3 months passed. Earth worked without rest. Factories ran every hour of every day. Scientists slept in their laboratories. Soldiers trained, until their bodies nearly broke. And then, on a cold Tuesday morning, the sensors detected them. The collector armada entered the Sol system like a black tide rolling across the ocean. 10,000 ships. Each one was massive, organic, covered in strange patterns that seemed to move and breathe. They were not built from metal and circuits like human ships. They were grown, like living creatures. And they were ancient, beyond imagination. Commander Jiwan Cho stood on the bridge of his destroyer, the Brave Spirit. He was 45 years old, with gray hair at his temples and scars on his hands from decades of service. He had fought in 3 wars during his career, but nothing had prepared him for what he saw on his screen. 10,000 ships, his second officer whispered. We have 800. Jiwan nodded slowly. The math was simple. They were outnumbered more than 12 to 1. Their technology was inferior. By every logical measurement, they had already lost. But Jiwan was not a logical man. He was a soldier. And soldiers did not fight because they expected to win. They fought because fighting was right. His orders from Admiral Sujin were clear. The First Fleet would engage the enemy near Saturn's rings. Their mission was not to win. Their mission was to delay the collectors, to learn their tactics, to buy time for Earth to prepare its final defense. Most of them would die. All of them had volunteered anyway. All ships, Jiwan said into his communication device. This is Commander Cho. In a few minutes, we will begin the first battle between humanity and the collectors. Many of us will not survive. But our sacrifice will give our families time, our children time, our species time. He paused. Make them pay for every inch. Make them remember this day. Show them what humans are made of. The fleet moved forward into the darkness. The battle began near the ice and rock of Saturn's rings. Human ships fired everything they had at the approaching enemy. Missiles, energy weapons, projectiles made of solid metal moving at incredible speeds. Some collector ships exploded. Their organic hulls burst open like rotten fruit. But for every enemy destroyed, dozens more kept coming. The collectors did not fight like humans expected. They did not use tactics or formations. They simply advanced, overwhelming everything in their path with superior numbers and firepower. Their weapons fired beams of sickly green light that cut through human ships like hot knives through paper. Jiwan watched 3 of his ships die in the first minute, then 5 more, then 12. His own ship shook violently as enemy fire struck the hull. Damage report, he shouted. Forward weapons destroyed. Engine power at 60%. Hull breach on decks 3 and 4. Jiwan studied the battle on his tactical display. Something was wrong with the enemy. Something that gave him a strange feeling of hope. They do not adapt, he said quietly. Look at them. They use the same pattern over and over. The same approach. The same attack angle. They do not change. His second officer frowned. Why would they not change? Because they have never needed to. Jiwan understood now. The collectors had been doing this for millions of years. They had harvested thousands of species, and none of those species had ever fought back hard enough to make them learn. They were powerful, yes, but they were also predictable, lazy, overconfident. An idea formed in Jiwan's mind. It was desperate. It was probably suicide. But it might work. All ships, he broadcast, new orders. Stop trying to destroy them from a distance. Get close. As close as possible. Ram them if you have to. Overload your reactors and detonate inside their formations. The response came immediately. Not complaints, not fear, just acknowledgement. The human ships changed direction and flew straight toward the enemy, engines burning at maximum power. The collectors did not understand what was happening. Their weapons were designed to hit targets at long range. They had no experience with enemies that charged directly into them. Their formation broke apart as human ships crashed into them, exploding in balls of fire that consumed everything nearby. Jiwan's own ship was heavily damaged. He could feel the deck shaking beneath his feet. Warning lights flashed everywhere. But he kept the Brave Spirit moving forward, aimed at the largest collector ship he could find. Sir, his second officer said, the reactor is about to fail. We have maybe 2 minutes. Jiwan nodded. He thought about his wife waiting for him on Earth. But they would live. That was enough. All hands, he announced. Abandon ship. Get to the escape pods. Now. His crew hesitated. That is an order. Go. They went. In 90 seconds, the brave spirit was empty, except for Jiwan and 3 volunteers who refused to leave him. Together, they guided the dying ship into the heart of the enemy formation. At the last moment, Jiwan opened a channel to Earth. His face appeared on screens across the planet. Millions of people watched as he smiled, calm and proud. "Tell my family I love them," he said, "and tell the collectors, we are coming." The brave spirit exploded. The blast destroyed 3 collector capital ships and damaged a dozen more. Across Earth, people watched in silence. Then they stood up. Then they cheered. Not because they were happy, but because they understood. If one man could do that much damage, what could a whole species do? The collectors had won the first battle. But they had learned something that frightened them for the first time in millions of years. Humans did not fear death. They used it as a weapon. Dr. Hana Lim had not slept in 4 days. Her eyes were red and swollen. Her hands trembled from too much coffee and too little rest. But when she looked at the device on her laboratory table, she felt something she had not felt since losing her family. She felt hope. Project Prometheus was complete. The weapon was not large. It was about the size of a small car, covered in strange glowing tubes and complex machinery. But inside that small shell was the most destructive force humanity had ever created. It worked by destabilizing quantum bonds, the tiny connections that held all matter together. Against normal metal ships, it would do nothing. But against organic vessels like the collector ships, it would be devastating. "It will make them fall apart," Hana explained to the military commanders gathered in her lab. "Their ships are alive. This weapon will make them die. One device, delivered to their flagship, will send a signal that spreads to every connected ship like a disease." Admiral Sujin studied the weapon carefully. "What are the risks?" "The device must be delivered directly inside the flagship. Someone will have to fly it there. And the person who activates it." Hana paused. "They will not survive. The quantum field will expand too quickly." The room was silent. Everyone understood what this meant. They needed volunteers who were willing to die. Lieutenant Minho Zhang stepped forward before anyone else could speak. He was 29 years old, tall and thin, with gentle eyes that seemed too soft for a soldier. His sister had been a teacher on one of the destroyed colonies. He had spent every night since her death looking at old photos of them together as children. "I will do it," Minho said simply. "I have nothing left to lose. Let me do this." 11 other pilots stepped forward to join him. They called themselves the Ghost Division, 12 souls who had accepted death and turned it into purpose. The plan was simple but brutal. Admiral Sujin would lead the main fleet against the collectors near Mars. Every ship Earth had built, every weapon they had created, every soldier who could fly would join the battle. Their job was to create chaos, to draw the enemy's attention, to open a path for the Ghost Division to reach the flagship. The night before the battle, Minho sat alone in the hangar bay, looking at his small fighter ship. It had been painted black with a single white ghost on the side. His team had painted similar symbols on their own ships. They wore no rank insignia, no medals, no identification. They were ghosts now. Dead men flying. Hana found him there and sat down beside him. "Thank you," she said quietly, "for what you are about to do." Minho shook his head. "Do not thank me. I am not doing this for thanks. I am doing this because of my sister. Because of your children. Because of everyone they took from us." He looked at her with those gentle eyes. "Make sure people remember why we fought. Not for glory. For love." Hana nodded, tears running down her face. She understood, perfectly. The next morning, the battle began. Near Mars, the largest fleet in human history faced the Collector Armada. Admiral Sujin commanded from the bridge of the Indomitable, watching thousands of ships clash in the darkness of space. Green enemy beams cut through the void. Human missiles and shells filled the sky like angry fireflies. The fighting was terrible. Human ships died by the dozens every minute. But they did not retreat. They pressed forward, fighting with a fury that shocked the collectors. For every ship that fell, another took its place. For every human who died, 10 more were ready to take their position. Sujin watched her people die and forced herself to stay focused. Every sacrifice was opening the path, little by little, toward the enemy flagship. Ghost Division, she broadcast, the way is opening, prepare to launch. Minho and his 11 companions flew into the chaos. Their small ships weaved between explosions and debris, dodging enemy fire with impossible skill. One by one, they fell. First pilot Jisoo, hit by a lucky shot. Then pilot Sunho, sacrificing himself to block fire, meant for Minho. Then more, and more. By the time Minho reached the flagship, only 3 ghosts remained. The collector flagship was enormous, larger than a city. Its organic surface pulsed with strange light, and massive tentacles reached out to grab at the human ships. Minho flew directly into its mouth, a huge opening that led to the ship's heart. Inside, the air was thick and strange. The walls were made of living tissue, covered in patterns that hurt to look at. Minho landed his ship and climbed out. Carrying Project Prometheus on his back, he walked through nightmare corridors filled with strange sounds and terrible smells. His 2 remaining companions fell to alien defenses, dying so he could move forward. Finally, alone, Minho reached the core of the flagship. There, he found something unexpected. A massive brain, if it could be called that, connected to millions of threads spreading throughout the ship and beyond. And through some strange connection, he understood the truth. The collectors were not evil by choice. They were slaves to this ancient brain, following commands they no longer understood. There was no hatred, no cruelty, just empty, endless hunger. For a moment, Minho felt pity. Then, he thought of his sister, of Hana's children, of everyone who had been harvested. I understand you, he said to the alien brain. But I do not forgive you. He activated Project Prometheus. The device hummed. The air crackled. Minho felt his body beginning to break apart at the smallest level. It did not hurt as much as he expected. It felt almost peaceful. His last thought was of his sister, smiling in the sunlight. The flagship began to die. And across the battlefield, connected, collector ships started dying with it. The tide was turning. The death of the flagship spread like fire through the collector fleet. Ships that had seemed unstoppable moments before suddenly became confused and weak. Their movements became random, uncoordinated, like ants that had lost their queen. The ancient hive mind that had guided them for millions of years was gone, destroyed by one human with nothing left to lose. Admiral Sujin watched the change from the bridge of the Indomitable. For a moment, she simply stared, unable to believe what she was seeing. Then, her training took over. All ships, she commanded, her voice sharp as steel. Full attack. No mercy. No prisoners. Destroy them all. The human fleet surged forward. Ships that had been barely surviving moments before now became hunters. Every weapon fired without stopping. Every pilot pushed their engines to maximum power. The rage that had been building for months finally found its release. The battle became a slaughter. Without their coordination, the collector ships were easy targets. They tried to flee, to regroup, to form some kind of defense. But humans gave them no chance. Every escaping ship was chased down. Every pocket of resistance was crushed. By the time the sun rose over Earth the next morning, the collector armada no longer existed. But the victory came with a terrible price. 60% of Earth's military was gone. 300 million humans had died in the attacks on the colonies and in the battle. 12 brave souls of the Ghost Division had given their lives. Commander Jihuan Cho and countless others had sacrificed everything. On the bridge of the Indomitable, Admiral Su Jin sat in her command chair and let the tears finally fall. She cried for the dead. She cried for the living. She cried for what humanity had lost and what they had become. For 10 minutes, she allowed herself to be weak. Then she wiped her eyes and stood up straight. There was still work to do. In the weeks that followed, Earth began to rebuild, but it was not the same Earth as before. The nations did not separate back into their old borders. The cooperation continued. Factories kept producing weapons and ships. Scientists kept developing new technologies. Soldiers kept training. Humanity had learned a lesson it would never forget. The universe was not safe. Trust was a luxury they could no longer afford. Survival required strength. Always. The shipyards worked day and night, building a new fleet. Defense platforms were placed around Earth, Mars, and every remaining colony. A massive network of sensors spread across the solar system, watching for any threat. The military budget, once debated and reduced, became the largest part of every government's spending. And then the aliens came, not the collectors. The other aliens. The 7 races of the Galactic Accord who had abandoned humanity to die. They sent representatives in a beautiful ship covered in symbols of peace. They wanted to talk. Ambassador Yunji Huang was chosen to meet them. She was 52 years old. A former diplomat who had lost her entire family in the first attacks. She had volunteered for this meeting because she trusted herself to stay calm. She trusted herself not to let anger control her words. Mostly, the meeting took place on a space station orbiting Earth. The alien representatives entered a large conference room where Unji waited alone. There were 7 of them, each from a different species. Some looked almost human. Others looked like nothing from Earth's worst nightmares. They all looked nervous. Ambassador Huang, the lead alien said, bowing slightly. "We come to offer our condolences and our friendship. What happened to your people was terrible. We wish to help you rebuild." Unji did not stand. She did not bow. She simply looked at them with cold, empty eyes. 3 months ago, she said slowly, "we sent you a message. We asked for help against the collectors. Do you remember what you said?" The aliens shifted uncomfortably. None of them answered. "You said you could not help us. You said the collectors had claimed us. You said you were sorry." Unji leaned forward. "You watched our colonies burn. You listened to our children scream. And you did nothing." "We were afraid," the lead alien admitted. "The collectors had destroyed many species before. We thought, you thought we would die quietly." Unji stood now. And despite being shorter than most of the aliens, she seemed to tower over them. "You thought we were just another weak species waiting to be harvested. You were wrong." She pressed a button on the table. A holographic display appeared, showing Earth's new defense network. Hundreds of weapons platforms. Thousands of warships. Millions of soldiers. "We do not need your help," Unji continued. "We rebuilt ourselves. We became stronger. And we learned something important." She stepped closer to the aliens, close enough to see the fear in their strange eyes. "We learned that we can only trust ourselves. We learned that friendship means nothing when danger comes. We learned that the universe respects only one thing: power." She turned off the display. "You are welcome to trade with us. You are welcome to visit our space. We will not harm you unless you harm us first. But do not call us friends. Do not call us allies. And do not ever think that you can abandon us again without consequences." The lead alien swallowed hard. "And if another threat comes? Something worse than the collectors?" Yunji smiled. It was not a warm smile. "Then, you better hope we decide to help you. Because unlike you, we remember everything." We forgive nothing, and we never forget. She walked toward the door, then stopped and looked back one final time. We were species 7,492, a number to be harvested. Now we are something else. Something the galaxy has never seen before. Spread the word to every civilization you know. Tell them about the humans. Tell them about Earth. Her eyes burned with cold fire. Tell them to be afraid. The alien representatives left in silence. They reported back to their governments. They spread the word across the galaxy. And everywhere the message reached, species that had never heard of Earth began to whisper about the strange creatures who had defeated the collectors. Humanity was no longer a number. Humanity was a warning. And in the darkness of space, no one dared threaten them again.